over there. Okay. All right. So in the last class, we started discussing about the first law of thermodynamics, right? And we
Yes, sir.
also talked about after that about the specific heats at constant pressure and the specific heat at constant volume. Okay. In continuation to that, today we are going to talk about the enthalpy. Okay. All of you have studied enthalpy, right, in your BSc, isn't it? Can you just define what is enthalpy? Can somebody
Uh,
say?
Enthalpy is the total heat involved in a process. The internal energy plus the
Okay,
heat it receives from external factors.
okay. Am I visible properly? Am I
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
okay?
Yes, sir.
Just one, let me test. Am I still visible or not visible?
Still visible, sir.
You're still visible, okay. Just
Yes,
trying to
sir.
test. Okay. So, okay, enthalpy. So, Deepak, you replied, right? Who said just now?
Yes, sir. Deepak.
Okay, good. Yeah, it is same thing basically. If the heat is added to a material at constant pressure so that the specific volume of the material increases from alpha 1 to alpha 2, the work done by a unit mass of material is then P times alpha 2 minus alpha 1, where alpha 2 and alpha 1 are the specific volumes. Okay, the specific volumes. So therefore, from the first law of thermodynamics, which we discussed in the last lecture, equation 2a, the first law of thermodynamics, which says dq is equal to du plus p d alpha, where dq is the heat added, du is the change in internal energy, plus p times d alpha, change in the volume, and p is the pressure, right? Therefore, from this equation, the finite quantity of heat delta Q added to a unit mass of the material at a constant pressure is given by delta Q is equal to U2 minus U1, change in the internal energy, plus P times alpha 2 minus alpha 1, change in the specific volume, which can be rewritten like it's equal to U2 plus P alpha 2 minus U1 plus P alpha 1. Okay, just by rearranging the terms, where U1 and U2 are respectively the initial and final internal energies per unit mass of the material. Therefore, at constant pressure, you can write delta Q is equal to H2 minus H1, where H2 is this one and H1 is this one. Okay, H2 minus H1. And this H is called the enthalpy of a unit mass of the material, which is defined by H is equal to U plus P times alpha, where U is the internal energy plus P times alpha is the specific volume. So this is the definition of the enthalpy. Okay. Now, because U, that is the internal energy, the pressure, and the specific volume alpha are functions of state. Therefore, H is also a function of state. Okay. Now, differentiating this equation 10, we obtain dH is equal to du plus d of p alpha. Okay, just differentiate this equation on both sides, and we get dH is equal to du plus d of p alpha. Now, substituting for du from the last equation number 4, which is the definition of the specific heat at constant volume Cv is equal to du by dt. So if you substitute for du from this equation and combine this with the one of the form of the first law of thermodynamics, that is dq is equal to cv dt plus d of p alpha minus alpha dp. So if you substitute du for this specific heat from this equation and also combine the equation with the first law of thermodynamics in this form, then we can obtain dq equal to dh minus alpha of dp. Okay, this is what we can get by substituting for du from this equation and then utilizing this first law of thermodynamics. We can get this equation dq equal to dh minus alpha of dp. Let's say this is equation number 11, which is yet another form of the first law of thermodynamics. As you know, the first law of thermodynamics can be expressed or written in different forms, and this is yet another form of the first law of thermodynamics. So now by comparing the last equation, which is in the previous slide, and equation number 11, this equation and the previous equation, we can write dH is equal to Cp dt. Okay, dH is equal to Cp dt, that is change in enthalpy, is equal to specific heat at constant pressure times the change in the temperature. Let's say this is equation number 12. Or when we integrate this equation, then we can get H is equal to Cpt. If you integrate this equation, we can get H is equal to Cpt. And this is the enthalpy. Okay, the definition of the enthalpy. So now this definition, H is equal to U plus P alpha, is transformed into this form, H equal to Cpt. Okay, so this is the definition of the enthalpy. All right. Now, in atmosphere, there is a very useful parameter we call dry static energy. Dry static energy, which is given by the sum of Cpt plus the geopotential, that is Gz. You remember the geopotential we discussed in one of the previous classes. Okay, so actually this dry static energy then is equal to the enthalpy plus the geopotential. Okay, and as you will see later on in future classes that this is a very useful parameter. We try to use it for many purposes. Okay, so when H is taken as 0, when T is equal to 0, when H is taken as 0, when T is equal to 0. Okay, in view of the last equation, H corresponds to the heat required to raise the temperature of a material from 0 to T Kelvin, okay, at a constant pressure. So this enthalpy, that means enthalpy is the heat required to raise the temperature of a material from 0 to T Kelvin at the constant pressure. Okay, this is what is the physical interpretation of the enthalpy or definition of the enthalpy. Okay. Now, when a layer of air that is at rest and in hydrostatic balance is heated, for example, by radiative transfer or radiative heating, the weight of the overlying air pressure pressing down on it remains constant. Okay. Hence, the heating is constant. Heating is at constant pressure. Okay. So the energy added to the air is realized in the form of an increase in the enthalpy, that is called the sensible heat. Okay, that is called the sensible heat. This is another important parameter which you will be using frequently for many purposes. Sensible heat, just like you have studied about the latent heat, similarly there is a sensible heat. Okay, and the sensible heat is basically the increase in the enthalpy when a air parcel is heated at a constant pressure. Okay, when an air parcel is heated at a constant pressure, then the energy added to the air is realized in the form of an increase in enthalpy, and that's called the sensible heat. Okay, you have to remember these definitions: sensible heat. Okay, and we can write dq, that is change in the heat, is equal to dh, the change in enthalpy, is equal to cp dt. Cp is the specific heat at constant pressure times the change in the temperature. So we can write a more general expression that is applicable to a moving air parcel, the pressure of which changes as it rises or sinks relative to the surrounding air. Okay. By combining this equation, because this is the definition of the geopotential, if you recall from the previous classes, if you recall it, then the definition of the geopotential d phi is equal to minus alpha times dp. Okay, this is one form of the geopotential's definition. Alpha is the specific volume. And question number 11, that was shown in the previous slide, and 13, okay, that is also in the previous slide. We can get dq is equal to d of h plus phi, and which is equal to d of cpt plus phi. Okay, 14. Well, actually, in the online classes, this is one of the limitations. Like, unlike in the classroom when we can write on the blackboard, and even the previous equations can be seen. But here we have to again go back to previous slides to show you the previous equations. But anyway, once you have the book with you, you can read from the books, or later on when I will share the PowerPoint with you, let me give you the PowerPoint, then you can see from the PowerPoint also. So we have to frequently refer to the previous equations given in the previous slide, shown in the previous slides, like equation number 13, equation number 11. Okay, and we can obtain from there dq, the change in heat, given by d of cpt plus phi, where phi is the geopotential. It can be written like this, but original definition of geopotential phi is basically gz. Okay, but g is the acceleration due to gravity, and z is the height. Okay, so if a parcel of air with a fixed mass is moving in a hydrostatic atmosphere, the quantity h, which is called the dry static energy, is constant provided the parcel neither gains nor loses heat. That is dq is equal to 0. Okay, the parcel of air having fixed mass, suppose it is moving in a hydrostatic atmosphere, then the quantity h, that is the enthalpy, which is called also the dry static energy. As I said, this is also called the dry static energy, cpt plus phi, which is the gz. It's called the dry static energy. Okay, is constant provided the parcel neither gains nor loses heat. That means adiabatic process, because according to the definition of the adiabatic process, there is no heat transfer or loss or gain of the heat. dq is equal to 0. So in such situation, the dry static energy, which is cpt plus phi, is conserved, remains constant. Okay, in the adiabatic process, the dry static energy remains constant. Okay, so you already know what is adiabatic process, right? You have studied in your BSc. Okay, here we shall again refresh the definition of the adiabatic process. Okay, and what does it say? It says that if a material undergoes a change in its physical state, that is pressure, volume, or temperature, without any heat being added to it or withdrawn from it, the change is said to be adiabatic. Okay, am I audible and visible?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
audible and visible? Yes or no? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, but your screen froze, sir.
The screen froze.
Yes, sir. Your PPT is visible, sir, but the screen.
Is
Now
it
it's okay, sir.
Now it's okay? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the definition of adiabatic process, right? And you have studied this, I know, your BSc level. But no, I mean, this is a very good conceptual definition no, for understanding the physical processes. But as we discussed last time also, that in real atmosphere, the processes are not always adiabatic, okay? And they are called diabatic, right? Diabetic. We had discussed this term diabetic in detail in the previous class, diabetic, because heat cannot remain unexchanged, okay, in the real atmospheric processes, okay. So now let us illustrate this through a diagram, okay. Let's say in this diagram, you have got pressure on the y-axis and volume on the x-axis, okay. And let's say this is an isotherm, okay. A to B, there is no change in the temperature, isotherm, okay, isotherm. And A to C represents the adiabatic, that means adiabatic process, okay. So suppose the initial state of an air particle is represented by the point A on this PV diagram. Last time we had discussed about this PV diagram, and we said that we shall discuss about this or refer to this more and more in subsequent classes. Also, we said that this is the basis of the so-called thermodynamic diagrams. And in meteorology, thermodynamic diagrams are very, very important because they are used for many purposes. Okay, we shall discuss that in detail later on. So, on this PV diagram, suppose if the initial point is represented by A, okay, initial state of an air is represented by point A, and that when the particle undergoes an isothermal transformation, it moves along the line AB, because this is an isotherm. So, by moving from A to B, the process is isothermal. And you know what is isothermal, right? You know what is isothermal?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what is isothermal? Can you tell what is isothermal?
Process at constant temperature.
Yes. Yeah, there is no change in the temperature. So even if the air parcel has moved from this point A to this point B, the temperature has not changed because this is an isothermal process. It has gone in isothermal transformation. It has only changed its pressure and it has only changed its volume. Okay. Volume has changed, obviously, because it has gone from here to there. Also, its pressure has changed. Okay. But the temperature has not changed because it is an isothermal process. Okay. So if the same parcel underwent a similar change in volume, okay, but under adiabatic conditions, the transformations would be represented by a curve AC, which is called an adiabat. Okay, the same parcel, if it moved from A to C just by changing the volume, okay, then this is called the adiabatic process. Okay. Now we are referring to this word called air parcel. But the air parcel, when we say air parcel has certain properties, it's supposed to have certain properties, certain characteristics. We frequently say air parcel is heated, air parcel rises. Now air parcel undergoes transformation of state. But air parcel is what? Okay. And air parcel is what? It has got a definition, right? Characteristics. So virtually all mixing in the particle takes place by exchange of macro scale air parcels with horizontal dimensions ranging from millimeters to the scale of the Earth itself. You can just imagine how big an air parcel could be, right? The size of an air parcel can be as small as millimeter, or it can be as large as the size of the Earth itself. Okay, several thousand kilometers. So it can range from very small size to a very large size. Okay, air parcel. And when we say this, we refer to air parcel when we talk about the atmospheric physics to indicate or discuss the various phenomena, okay, like air is heated or air parcel is heated, then it rises up or it is lifted because of the change in the density or because of the mechanical process and so on, air parcel, okay. So you have to remember this. An air parcel of infinitesimal dimensions is assumed to be thermally insulated from its environment so that its temperature changes adiabatically as it rises or sinks, always remaining at exactly the same pressure as environment, air at the same level, which is assumed to be in hydrostatic equilibrium. Okay, that's what is the characteristics or property of an air parcel. Okay, when it moves, then it's supposed to be insulated from its surrounding environment. Okay, so that its temperature change is only adiabatic. Now, when it rises or sinks, the change in temperature is only adiabatic. It always remains at exactly the same pressure as the environment air. So when air parcel is rising, the pressure inside the parcel is supposed to be same as that of the environment at the same level, which is assumed to be in hydrostatic equilibrium. Okay. Although for real air parcels, one or more of these assumptions are nearly always violated to some extent. This simple idealized model is helpful in understanding some of the physical processes. I said earlier that theoretically, okay, it's fine. We can make some assumptions to simplify or to understand the physics. Okay, but in reality, in the real atmosphere, these conditions which we just mentioned are not always obeyed. Some of them are always violated because adiabatic process, when we assume that itself is not realistic, is fine in the controlled laboratory condition in a physics lab. When everything is under your control, you can do experiments in a controlled environment, constant pressure, constant volume, or constant temperature, etc., without change of the heat. But in the open atmosphere, open sky, such things do not occur in reality. Okay, but at the same time, now these concepts are useful for understanding purposes. So when we say an air parcel, you can imagine a parcel of air having the size that depends. It can be of the size of a big building, or it can be the size of a big city. No, like suppose wherever you are living, suppose I am living in the Central University of Rajasthan, okay, and Central University of Rajasthan campus is suppose 650 acres, let us say. Then the entire air mass above this campus of the university can be thought of a air parcel. Okay. Or sometimes if the air parcel is even bigger in size, it can be several kilometers in size. As we said already, it can range from millimeters to the size of the earth itself, big size. That means an air parcel can be as big as the size of a town or the size of a city. Okay. Because we are talking about the atmosphere, right? Earth's atmosphere, which is global, quite big. So in this global atmosphere, there can be air parcels of several sizes, and these air parcels will be influenced or affected or impacted by the conditions around that place. For example, if an air parcel is there over, say, Kolkata region, okay, and another air parcel is there over, say, Kerala or Tamil Nadu, okay. Now the air parcel over Kerala will inherit the property or conditions which is prevailing around Kerala. atmospheric conditions which is prevailing around Kerala. For example, Kerala must be now warm. Is it warm? What is the temperature at your place? Some of you from Kerala, what is the temperature at your place right now? Do you have any?
22 degrees Celsius.
How much?
22.
22. So let's say 22.
20.
Okay. It's Celsius. Something like that. I mean, depends on place to place. Temperature may vary. So the air parcel over Kerala, say let us say its temperature is at 22, and that is again at the surface level, not at higher level. There is another air parcel, let us say, which is our Kolkata or our Rajasthan. Now in Rajasthan, the temperatures in daytime is warm, but in night time is quite cold, very cold. Let's say night time it can drop down to 10 degrees centigrade, quite cold. But night time, I mean daytime, right now it may be about 20 degrees or so, sunny day outside. So the air parcel over this place, over the university campus, will have a temperature of 20 degrees, whereas the air parcel over Kerala will have a 22 degree temperature. Unlike that, at different places all over India, so many types of air parcels, so many air parcels inheriting the characteristics or properties of the land below it. Okay. And according to the prevailing condition, the ground will be heated somewhere more or somewhere less, depending on the type of the land also, right? So accordingly, the air parcel will exchange property or heat from the ground, and then it will start warming up. As a result of warming, it can, its density will decrease and it will start rising up, right? That's called the convective motion, right? Because of convection. So this is the characteristics of the air parcel. We shall be referring to it very frequently for many purposes. Now let's talk about the dry adiabatic lapse rate. Okay, dry adiabatic lapse rate. Last time we had mentioned about this dry adiabatic lapse rate. Do you remember? Anybody remembers? What is the
Yes,
dry
sir.
adiabatic, how much is the dry adiabatic lapse rate?
Sir,
Around 7 degrees Celsius per kilometer.
How much? How much?
around 10 degrees.
Yes, yes. Or 9.8 degrees centigrade per kilometer. That is the dry
Per kilometer.
Okay, per kilometer, yes. So let's derive an expression for the rate of change of temperature with height of an air parcel of dry air that moves in the Earth's atmosphere. Now, because the air parcel undergoes only adiabatic transformations, we are assuming it. That means dq is equal to 0, and the atmosphere is in hydrostatic equilibrium. Then for a unit mass of air in the parcel, we can write from the previous equation 14, just we saw in the previous slide, that d of cpt plus phi is equal to 0, because dq is 0. The adiabatic transformation, dq is equal to 0, right? So by dividing through dz and making use of the this equation, definition of the geopotential, d phi is equal to gz equal to minus alpha dp. In this equation, we can write minus of dt by dz, rate of change of temperature with height of a dry parcel is equal to g by cp, and this is called the dry adiabatic lapse rate, denoted by gamma d, where d indicates dry. Okay, so the dry adiabatic lapse rate is equal to g by cp. We substitute the value of g and cp, then it will be approximately 9.8. Where gamma d is called the dry adiabatic lapse rate. Okay. Substituting g is equal to 9.81 meter per second square and cp is equal to 1004 joules per Kelvin per kilogram. into this equation, we get gamma D is equal to 9.8 Kelvin per kilometer, which is the value of the dry adiabatic lapse rate. Okay, it's very, very important. You have to remember this dry adiabatic lapse rate. Okay, because depending upon the lapse rate of the atmosphere, lapse rate of the surrounding air, and air parcel will be stable or unstable or neutral in the atmosphere. Okay, stability, we shall discuss about these things in the classes later on. Okay, so it should be noted that gamma D is the rate of change of temperature following a parcel of dry air that is being raised or lowered adiabatically in the atmosphere. Okay, this is what is the dry adiabatic lapse rate. Whether it is raised or lowered, is rising or sinking, but is undergoing the adiabatic process adiabatically. Okay, so the actual lapse rate of the temperature in a column of air, which is say del T by del Z, this is actually the rate of change of temperature with height. This is the actual lapse rate. Okay, as measured, for example, by a radio sound, average is 6 to 7 Kelvin per kilometer. Okay, as you know, the radio sound measures the profile of the temperature, humidity, winds, etc. So the actual lapse rate of the air, that is del T by del Z, this is the actual lapse rate of the air, del T by del Z, which we can measure or obtain from the observations of radio sound, and which you will find generally is equal to 6 to 7 Kelvin per kilometer in the troposphere. Okay, although it can change, okay, the value from depending upon from place to place. So that is the dry adiabatic lapse rate and the lapse rate of the surrounding air and the environment. Okay, so now we shall discuss about another important parameter called the potential temperature. Has it been discussed in any other class earlier, in any of your subject?
No, sir.
No, not yet. Okay. Okay, we shall discuss that. This is another important parameter, which is very, very useful and very widely used. Frequently, we shall be using to this potential temperature. Last time we discussed about virtual temperature, right? Virtual temperature. How many of you remember virtual temperature?
Yes, sir. I do, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can you just state what is
Yes, sir.
virtual temperature?
So, virtual temperature is the temperature to which dry air parcel should be raised for that, for it to attain the density of equivalent moist air parcel, sir.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, virtual temperature, and that we define that because we know that the density of the water vapor or the amount of water vapor is not the same everywhere in the atmosphere, and because the gas constant for the water vapor will depend upon the amount of water vapor, so gas constant will keep changing. So in order to avoid that situation where there is a variable gas constant, we use the gas constant of the dry air RD and adjust the temperature so that we can use the constant value of the gas constant, and that adjusted temperature is the virtual temperature. And we had derived the expression for virtual temperature in the previous classes. Okay, virtual temperature. If you remember, the virtual temperature is given by PV is equal to T times 1 plus
0.6 W
yes times W, where W is the
mixing ratio.
mixing ratio. Good, very good. Okay, so and we had mentioned in the previous classes that there are many types of temperature that we use in meteorology, like ambient temperature, virtual temperature, dry bulb temperature, wet bulb temperature, dew point temperature, equivalent potential temperature, potential temperature, of course, and so on. So have you read those definitions from the book? Has anybody read that?
Yes, sir.
Who is that? I'm not able to see you. Not able to. Now I'm able to recognize your voice.
Sir, Deepak. Sir.
Deepak. Okay, Deepak. Good, very good. So all of you have to read that. Okay, all of you have to read that. Sorry. Am I visible?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
visible? No? Yes or
Yes,
no?
sir.
Okay.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
good.
sir.
Okay. So good, Deepak. Yeah. So today we are going to discuss about the potential temperature. What is potential temperature? Okay. Now, potential temperature of an air parcel is defined as the temperature that the parcel of air would have if it were expanded or compressed adiabatically from its existing pressure and temperature to a standard pressure P naught, generally taken as 1000 millibar. Okay. So the potential temperature of an air parcel at any height above the ground is the temperature which the air parcel would attain when it is brought down adiabatically to a reference pressure level of say 1000 millibar. Oops, they just expanded. Okay, okay, I hope it's okay. So is that okay now? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So this is the definition of the potential temperature. Now we shall derive an expression for the potential temperature. For an adiabatic transformation, dq is equal to 0. Okay, adiabatic. And the previous equation, number 9, becomes Cp dt minus alpha dp equal to 0, which is one of the form of the first law of thermodynamics. Okay, Cp dt minus alpha dp equal to 0. Now in this, because we are achieving the adiabatic process, dq equal to 0. Substituting from the equation of state, which says P alpha is equal to RT, into this expression yields Cp by R times dt by T minus dp by P is equal to 0. Okay. Just substituted the equation of the state into this expression. And we got this. You will have to read the books and just derive these things are simple derivations. Okay, you will have to derive these expressions by yourself. Will you do that? All of you? Will you do that? See the books.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You have to just try yourself after the classes. So they are simple derivations now, and you should be able to derive these things by yourself. We get this expression Cp by R times dt by T minus dp by P. Okay. Now integrating upward from P0, where by definition T is equal to theta. Okay, because we are saying that the parcel is brought to a reference pressure level 1000 millibar, which is P naught, and that is the temperature which is called the potential temperature theta. Then we get Cp by R. We are just trying to integrate this equation. Okay, we are bringing the parcel from a temperature T down to the reference level where the temperature is theta. Potential temperature dt by T is equal to integration from P naught to P dp by P. Okay. Or we can write Cp by R log of T by theta is equal to log of P by P0. Now taking the anti-log on both the sides, we can get T by theta to the power of Cp by R is equal to P by P naught from this equation. Or We can write from this expression theta is equal to T times P0 by P to the power R by Cp. Theta is equal to T times P0 by P to the power R by Cp. And this is the definition of the potential temperature. Okay, this is the definition of the potential temperature. Potential temperature, which is the temperature of an air parcel, which is brought down adiabatically to a standard pressure level, 1000 millibar. It would have the temperature like this. Okay, so it depends on where the parcel is located. Suppose the parcel is located at the pressure P, where the temperature is T. Then when it is brought down adiabatically to the reference pressure level P0, then this will be its temperature, and this temperature is called the potential temperature. Okay, very important definition we have to remember. This equation number 17, let us say, is also called the Poisson equations. Poisson's equations. Okay, we will be referring to these Poisson's equations in the future. It is usually assumed that R, the gas constant, is equal to the dry air's gas constant, which is equal to 287 joules per Kelvin per kilogram, and Cp is the specific heat for the dry air, which is 1004 joules per Kelvin per kilogram. Therefore, R by Cp, here R by Cp is equal to 0.286. R by Cp is 0.286. The potential temperature is conserved quantity. This is a very important property, and because of which it is used very widely. Potential temperature is a conserved quantity. Okay, and that's why sometimes I don't know whether in atmospheric dynamics, dynamic meteorology class, have you been taught about the vertical coordinates of the atmospheric system? Vertical coordinate. Generally, what is the vertical coordinate that we use in the atmosphere? Can somebody say?
So W, sir.
What is that?
W.
Well, W is the vertical velocity. Okay,
For
W
wind,
is
sir, if we use Z, sir.
Z. Yeah. There's Z. Generally, X, Y, Z. That's what we call Cartesian coordinate system. We say X, Y, and Z, where Z is the vertical and X, Y are the horizontal, where X refers to the zonal direction in meteorology, east, west, and Y refers to the meridional direction, north, south, right? So we say Cartesian coordinate to be X, Y, Z. Okay, but in atmospheric models, for many purposes or for our convenience of simplifications of the equations or handling the terms, which sometimes are quite complicated, we use various vertical coordinates. The standard coordinate is Cartesian coordinate is X, Y, Z, but in atmospheric models or dynamic meteorology, we can use X, Y, and P also. X, Y, and pressure. Pressure also can be taken as a vertical coordinate, because we know that pressure decreases with height, right? Pressure decreases with height. So we can use pressure as another vertical coordinate. So in that case, we say isobaric coordinate system. In that system in which vertical coordinate is used as pressure, called the isobaric coordinate system. So we have got Cartesian coordinate system, we have got isobaric coordinate system. The most frequently or commonly used coordinate is called sigma coordinate system. That is that you will study later on in your atmospheric dynamics, sigma coordinate system. And there are many advantages of using sigma coordinate system. Okay, which is defined as the ratio of the P over PS, where PS is the surface pressure and P is the pressure of any level in the vertical. So in other words, we try to normalize the pressure with respect to the surface pressure, P by PS. And this is called the sigma coordinate system. The biggest advantage of sigma coordinate system is that at the bottom of the atmosphere, sigma is always equal to 1. We mentioned that we can use pressure as the vertical coordinate. And when we say coordinate system, definitely we would like to have a system of coordinate which are fixed in space, right? Because everything, all the equations we derive in that case with reference to that coordinate system, right? So for convenience, although we do sometimes use the pressure as a vertical coordinate, but its biggest disadvantage is that the pressures does not remain constant with time and space. For example, the surface pressure will vary from place to place, right? We have discussed that in detail earlier. The surface pressure will vary from place to place. So if the vertical coordinate itself vary, it does not remain constant all the time, then we will have trouble in representing the equations, because then the system is not fixed. So in order to avoid that situation, we use the so-called sigma coordinate system, in which we normalize the pressure by surface pressure. And by definition, therefore, the value of sigma is always 1 at the surface, P by PS. So at the surface, P will be equal to PS divided by PS, which is 1. So that is the advantage of sigma coordinate system, that no matter wherever you go, wherever you are, whether you are on top of a mountain or you are at the mean sea level, sigma is always equal to 1. Okay. Similarly, we also use theta, the potential temperature, as one of the coordinates. All these things I said because in the context of the definition of discussion of potential temperature. Because theta, we just now said that potential temperature is a potential temperature is a conserved quantity. Potential temperature is a conserved quantity. And therefore, we sometimes use potential temperature as one of the vertical coordinate system, vertical coordinates for atmospheric models. And in that case, the system is called isentropic coordinate, isoentropic. See, potential temperature is conserved, remains constant. And so is the entropy. So isentropic name is derived from constant entropy. So on an isentropic surface, the entropy remains constant. So that is called the isentropic coordinate system. Okay. So it is an extremely useful parameter in atmospheric thermodynamics, since atmospheric processes are often close to adiabatic and therefore remains essentially constant, like density in an incompressible fluid. Density in an incompressible fluid. Okay. So discuss about the potential temperature. I think now we shall stop here for today. And in the next class, we shall discuss about the thermodynamic diagrams. The thermodynamic diagrams which we had referred earlier in previous classes, we shall discuss in detail in the next class. Okay. So any question by now? Yes or no?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, so everything clear. All right, so already 1:33 now. How many students joined so far? Ayaz Khan, you came later? Ayaz? बाद में कौन-कौन आया था?
Yes, sir. I came
Yeah.
a bit late.
Video जरा on करो. Let me stop sharing the PowerPoint. Stop sharing. Ayaz, can you switch on your video? Are you? Yes. क्या हो गया तुमको? कल परसों पिछले क्लास में नहीं था तुम? Ayaz?
सर तबीयत थोड़ी सी ठीक नहीं है अभी फिलहाल, ऐसे नहीं था सर। अभी
क्या हो
ठीक
गया?
है अभी सर
अभी
तबीयत
ठीक
ठीक
है?
नहीं थी थोड़ा, अब ठीक है।
घर में बैठ के क्लास लेना पड़ता है ना, कोई बाहर तो जाना नहीं पड़ता है।
हाँ सर, रहता ही हो, Yes, yes.
हाँ?
एकदम तो टेम्परेचर वेरिएशन कुछ ज्यादा हो गया था ये फिलहाल कोटा के अंदर, लगभग 10 डिग्री पे एकदम 20 डिग्री आ गया तो बीमार पड़ गया था।
और राजस्थान में तुम राजस्थान के हो ना,
यस सर।
कोटा में होते हो ना, कहाँ होते हो? राजस्थान में तो टेम्परेचर चेंज होता है, यू ऑलरेडी नो दैट, सो यू हैव टू बी केयरफुल, राइट?
यस यस सर।
हाँ,
वही।
तो क्लासेस को अटेंड किया करो and don't depend only on the video, though I know that I provided the video.
बहुत ओके सर।
Don't completely depend on the video, okay? Video is supplement only, it's only for assistance for your utility, but it doesn't mean that कि चलो क्लास छोड़ देते हैं, वीडियो तो मिल ही जाएगा, है ना? That kind of thinking should not be there, okay, all of you. So you must attend the classes regularly, okay, and also attendance is so important. Now already I think 12-13 lecture तो हो ही गया, I think I have already taken 13-14 lectures, right? So I think after another 7-8 lectures, I think 20-25 lectures के बाद you will have a first internal assessment, okay, and in that case your attendance will be seen that who has attended how many classes. Therefore, although for all of you I do share the video, but do not depend only on the videos, okay? The classes are very, very important, okay? So ठीक है, so now we stop for today, okay? I stop recording. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
stop recording and okay.